Welcome to RPG Book Club, the podcast where we play a little bit of a video game and talk about how it makes us feel. I am Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Houck. Your plosives are coming in hot today.
Sorry.
Plosives. And I'm Maddie Grace. That's right. It's OG, just the dry boys today.
Hell yeah. Today we will be covering the first half of Crusader of Centy, aka Ragnacënty, aka Soleil for the Mega Drive, aka the
Soleil.
Genesis. Whatever. You correcting my French ruined my bit.
I'm sorry.
It's
Your
okay.
imperfect French ruined my day.
Yeah, so really, get owned.
Yeah. We'll be playing the first half of the game, which covers up until we defeat the Leviathan boss, which is not a very important part to the story, but fun fact, none of it is a very important part to the story.
Well, turns out, I looked ahead a little bit, there is a major structural twist in the story, literally the next dungeon. So we should have gone that far, but I wasn't playing this until yesterday and today, so I wouldn't have known that.
Yeah, and I just picked the midpoint on... I picked a boss at the midpoint of the long play, because how was I supposed to know?
Yeah. The game actually has a pretty clear front and back half, and we missed the end of the front half by a dungeon.
Whoopsies.
It's okay.
But before we get to all of that, how was you guys this week?
Honestly, I'm doing good. I remember last time I said a whole lot was going on. Last time I didn't want to share too much publicly, and I still won't share too much, but I will say it's all resolved. Although I had been broken up with for about 4 days, which wasn't fun. But now I'm not. So I'm back to my old 2 GFs having self. Although the other GF, the long distance GF, is still going through it. Going through it in a better way than before, but still going through it. Like here's an example. My partner, that I actually live with, Kali, got a extension on his taxes because his taxes were very complicated due to reasons. And it was stressing him the hell out, right? It was stressing out so much because that deadline, even though it was a 6-month extension, that deadline's approaching. And when you have mental health stuff, it makes it hard to do things, even though the deadline's slowly approaching, right? So literally just today, we finally go to H&R Block because we do need to actually talk to a professional about this stuff. It has nothing to do with me, by the way. I was just there for emotional support.
Mm-hmm.
And he figures it out, and it turns out he's going to have to pay a pretty hefty chunk of taxes, which sucks. But here's the thing, I don't want to speak too much for him, but we talked a little bit, and I think he feels this way a little bit, and I definitely feel this way a lot, which is like, okay, I'm scared because I have no idea what's going to happen, and it's stressing me out, is way better than, okay, I got to pay a lot of money. Right? Like, at least you know what the problem is and you can work through it, right?
Yeah.
So that's sort of analogous to what's going on with my life. So I just figured I'd let y'all know everything is significantly better. Though of course nothing's ever perfect. And also yesterday, at like 6:30 p.m., I got a COVID booster because I haven't been boosted since about a year ago. And last time I got boosted, it kicked my fucking ass. And this time, no big deal.
Nice.
Yeah, right? I don't know if they made them better or if my body just got different or something, but I got it at 6:30 p.m. and I'm thinking, okay, if this might kick my ass and I can't go to my night shift at work, or even worse, it might start kicking my ass at 3 a.m. when I'm still at work. And it did make me really achy, not like the elbow, but like my body, like your various joints and bones just start aching like they do when you get sick. And then I started getting a little bit of a headache and feeling a little bit like chills. And I went to bed thinking, oh God, when I wake up tomorrow, I'm going to feel like shit. And then I woke up tomorrow feeling pretty much normal.
Hell yeah.
Get boosted, folks.
Yeah,
Especially if you're going on a trip.
Yeah, I haven't got a second booster yet. I think it has been 6 months, so I'm eligible for a booster number 2.
You should do it.
But yeah.
Oh, duh. Other big thing. I got a new car.
Oh, hell yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, remember? Yeah, I'm sure y'all remember. My car got totaled like ages ago, and the insurance taking forever. But it fell right into my lap. I found out via word of mouth, like friend of a friend of a friend, that somebody was selling a car, and that it was like an old car. They just gotten it because they needed a car because they'd been totaled. And they just got this car to have temporarily, and now they're moving on to like a real car and just need to get rid of it. So they weren't trying to like make money off it or anything. We're trying to flip it or nothing. I go to see it, and it's phenomenal. It's a Honda Accord from 2004. And despite being 18 years old and having 240,000 miles on it, it's in incredible condition. The person who drove it must have just taken good care of it. Maybe like never did any more than drive it to and from work or something like that, because like the outside looks wonderful. The inside looks wonderful. The engine looks great. It runs completely smooth. It feels like it's got, I don't know, like 60K on it, even though it's got literally 4 times that many miles. And the person was selling it for real cheap. The person was selling it for cheap enough that I didn't need to get the insurance money.
Oh,
like I could pay with it with my current bank account. So I was still waiting on the insurance money. I still haven't gotten it. Hopefully I'll get it by the end of this week or something. This time around, it's not their fault. Actually, we had a technical issue involving a DocuSign. You know what I mean? They're like, hey, sign this. And then it glitched out and we couldn't sign it. Very annoying. But yeah, once she told me how much it was, I was like, I said, give me a second. And she said, what? And I was like, I called Collie and I told him the information. And then I was like, all right. The lady had told me that she was showing someone else the car later. And it wasn't like a sneaky trick. It's like she was definitely showing the car to someone else later. And I was like, what can I do to make you tell that person the car is sold? And she's like, $1,000 deposit. And I was like, you got it. So I went and got a money order for $1,000, gave it to her right there on the spot the day that I saw the car, and then like 4 days later went and bought it.
It's amazing.
Anyway, I'm really happy with it because this car thing's been stressing me the hell out, and I'm super happy. The only downside is that car is in the exact perfect time period where it was too late to have a tape deck but too early to have an aux cable. It only has a CD player. Which is actually the worst because you can turn a tape deck into an aux player, right? Or into an aux in using one of those special tape deck thingies. So I am gonna need to get a new I'm gonna need to buy a new stereo. But you can get that for like under $100 and install it yourself. So because I do love my CD collection, but I'm very dependent on my phone for playing music at this point in my life now. I'm no longer at the point where I just play my 20 CDs anymore. So yeah, no, we gotta move into the 21st century a little bit there. But yeah, it's good times. Cars, man, they sure are a pain in the butt. My goal, it's got 240K on it. My goal is for me to have it until it hits 340.
Nice.
Which, for the record, that's a shit ton.
Yeah.
But I have heard that there are Hondas that have that many miles on them that are still chugging. I've heard. I know of. What's the word? Anecdotal. I know of anecdotal evidence that is a possible thing for a car to do. So that's my goal.
Nice.
Yeah. The end.
What about you, Bernard?
I don't know. My mental health has been absolute garbage trash the past few weeks, so I haven't been doing much, including not finishing this section of Crusader of Centy. I got through most of it, and I figured there's not going to be a big plot twist or anything. So
Not until next week.
Yeah, there wasn't. You were right.
Yeah, my mental health has also been garbage. I managed to beat this section of Crusader of Centy, but writing the notes for it should have taken 20 minutes and not been hard. And I've been working on it since about 4 o'clock this afternoon because executive function is a very, very elusive beast.
It really is tough. It really is tough. I've had trouble with that lately too. I'm actually good now, but that's only as of like 4 days ago.
I am seeing a psychiatrist for my mental health problems, and I was like, I think I probably have ADHD. Do you want to talk about it? And she was like, no, I don't want to talk about it. I want you to go get neuropsychological testing for ADHD. And I'm like, okay, but it turns out insurance doesn't cover that, and it costs like $700. And I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
That sucks. Also, it's so inconsistent because that's not how it was for me at all. And it's like, it sucks that it's so inconsistent that it's like, whether you got to pay $700 or something or not, is just depending on just pure dumb luck.
Mm-hmm.
You hate it. So,
and what if I pay $700 and they're like, nah, you're just like this.
Yeah.
This is just how life
well, that's
is.
the thing. I think it's pretty obvious for you. Like whenever I talk to the people, it was like they were like, oh yeah, this is pretty obvious. Yeah, you definitely got pools of blood in your stomach. And now that I know what a lot of the symptoms are and what a lot of those things that I just thought was like, this is just how I am, but then turns out it was like, no, that's like ADHD executive dysfunction issues. Like now that I know what sort of those symptoms are and what it looks like, I think about you, Bernard, and I'm like, yeah, duh.
Mm-hmm.
Like same hat. So the fact that they're making you do this is like, ugh.
Yeah, that's annoying. But
you know what's not annoying?
Me talking about the important things I've tried to segue into for my week.
That's right.
Hell yeah. So on October 3rd was mine and Summer's 7th anniversary, and it was our last anniversary. We have been broken up since like a week after she got back from the hospital. Side note, all of our medical bills are paid off, which is awesome. So that's dope. But
yo, let's fucking go, dude. Congratulations.
Thank you. So we broke up like a week after we got back from the hospital, and it sucked a lot. I privately called and talked with Maddie and Bernard a lot, so this is not news to them. But on October 3rd, we posted about it publicly and everything. We are staying a family, and we're staying best friends, and we're staying co-parents, and basically the only thing that's changing is the way I explained it to Scarlett is mom and dad are still mom and dad, and we're still a family. We're still husband and wife, but we're not boyfriend and girlfriend anymore, and nothing else really has changed. And it still managed to suck real bad for several months.
I mean, that still really sucks. Like, geez.
Yeah, but it's much better now, and things are going great and going awesome. And in the 3-ish months since then, I also have joined the 2-partner committee. I have a shipmate who I won't name because they're not out as poly, but shipmate is the non-binary term that we chose because it was cute and Maddie hates it, so congratulations. But
I hate most cutesy terms for all of this stuff. Like when people like even the term like polycule, like people start talking about like the cule. For the record, my girlfriend does talk about the cule. She doesn't like it any more than I do, but it's like I guess this is what else are you going to do? And anytime either of us uses that word, we both just kind of like have to like sigh and be like, I guess this is the word we're saying now.
I don't like cutesy terms. I don't like any terms. I don't like language.
But yeah, I have a shipmate who I won't name, and I also have a boyfriend who I will name, whose name name is Bernie, which I'm glad that I never became good enough friends with Bernard to get into the you can call me Bernie level. So he's still Bernard Chan, Bernard Kuhn.
Yes, not Chan,
but Kuhn. And
I
so
might bump you up to sand if you try and pull that again.
And so it doesn't even like occupy the same half of my brain to have a boyfriend named Bernie and a podcast host named Bernard. So thank you for not being my best friend, Bernard. to
You're
make
welcome.
that weird.
Oh yeah. Sorry, this is something that I'm going to share publicly, but without saying who. But then I'll tell y'all who later if y'all haven't heard. Big news for all three of us, actually. Even if the two of y'all might not know it yet, a person who all three of us knows is transgender now.
Oh yes,
As of like 2 days ago, and that fucking girl. I'm not going to say it because I don't know how public it is. I mean, she put it on Twitter, but like, you know, not everyone follows you on Twitter, so
yeah,
that's super exciting.
Yeah. But the craziest part about having two partners is after I started dating Bernie, my other partner was like, "Oh, Madison, Wisconsin is a super small town, and there's only like 5 queers out there. So I've matched with them before, and they were really cool. I'm really happy for you." And then my shipmate was like, "So like, is it weird if I add Bernie on Facebook?" And then I was like, "So is it weird?"
Yeah, adding anyone on Facebook is weird. What are you doing on Facebook?
Absolutely. And then they were like, "Is it weird if me and Bernie hang out this week?" I'm like, Are you just trying to ask out my boyfriend?" And they were like, "Yeah." So I've ended up in I ended up in a throuple, which is bonkers. So that's what my life is like now. I do 3 podcast episodes a week. I'm in a throuple. I live with my best friend, and I have 2 kids. I don't have free time.
Are either of these two people a tran?
Bernie is a tran.
Okay, good. Because I was like, okay, look, like, this is... Everything about this is like the most stereotypically transgendered fucking thing. And if y'all were all cis, I would have been like, brain explode, reconsidering reconception. Oh, I guess the other person's not binary, so I guess I already knew that. So sorry for
no, it's all good.
quashing that identity. But anyway, I guess I forgot that temporarily. Anyway, the point is, if of course y'all are. Of course they are, because the whole like, there's only like 5 of us in the whole damn town, and I've already been on a date with them. That's like the tran experience. There's like 10 of us in the whole country. Ma'am, I'm gonna tell you right now, if you end up in my fucking queue, I'll murder you. I'll murder someone. It only takes one to break the chain. So just like, you better fucking watch it.
I will. But yeah, so my life looks completely different, and it's been weird saying like, "Oh, nothing happened this week. I just played the quarry," which, by the way, I played the quarry, and it's really good.
Isn't Grace Zabriskie in that?
I don't remember that name off the top of my head being in it, but Alex Winters is in it. Brenda Song is in it. Halson Sage is in it. Those are the main 3 girls, and then the other girl, Laura, might be the person you're talking about. They might be
Grace Zabriskie is an old ass woman.
Oh,
extremely old.
Then maybe there is
advanced in years.
There is definitely an old ass woman in the game, and I didn't look up who they were, so that could be who you're talking about. But the best thing about the quarry is it is very much a choose your own adventure. Like it has a bunch of different paths. They're all shaped roughly the same, but what happens at each of the turns is completely different. And like there's a everyone lives ending, and everyone dies ending, and everyone is a werewolf ending, no one is a werewolf ending, and endless variations thereof. So like you can have different stuff happening constantly. However, they're not a Japanese visual novel, so when you replay it, there's no fast forward, there's no cutscene skipping, there's no anything. It like is begging you to play it a million times and see all the routes, and to do so it takes 15 hours every time. Most frustratingly, none of your collectibles even go across to the next one. So there's like tarot cards you can find that potentially Grace Zabriskie, the old ass woman, is like, oh, let me show you an ending that you don't have. Like, this is a path that you're not on for you to go and try again. That is something that a visual novel would use to tell you to go and pick another route. But if you start over, you don't have those tarot cards. You have to find them each and every time you do it. And it's a 15-hour investment to get through the whole game. And it's frustrating and annoying.
Yeah, it seems like a design issue. That's a shame.
Anyway, yes, I looked it up and Grace Zabriskie is in it.
I literally never heard of this game until just now, but if Grace Zabriskie is in it, color me interested.
Yeah, it's even if you only play it once and just do the 15-hour one time through and you don't clear all the routes, it's worth the cost of admission. It is a fantastically done visual novel, interactive movie, adventure game, whatever the fuck you want to call it. It's very, very, very well done. It's apparently by the people that do the Dark Pictures anthology stuff. I didn't know that until after I was playing it, and I told a friend I was playing it, and they're like, "Oh, isn't that the new Dark Pictures game?" So, yeah.
Ooh,
but it's
before we move on. Speaking of video games that have major design decisions, I've been wanting to replay Death Stranding, but turns out my PS4's HDMI port is busted at one output. So, I don't know why. Just last time I tried it worked. So I decided to use my my girlfriend's PS4, which she doesn't use it that much. The PS4 Slim, not that heavily used. Just been sitting in storage since we moved in. So I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'll just install the game on yours and play the game because I really want to play it. It's been ages. HDMI port doesn't work. What? Anyway, that's really bad design choice for Death Stranding. I don't know why they it's like they want me to play it, but my PS4 doesn't output graphics. So they really need to patch that.
You just got to buy a PS5.
Yeah, hopefully. Yeah, maybe they fix that as a quality of life update in like fucking director's cut or whatever. I really hope that Hideo Kojima's next game decides to change doesn't have that design concept, because it really just seems ill-conceived to me.
Yeah. Speaking of ill-conceived design ideas, let's talk about Crusader of Centy.
Nicely done. Because there aren't any.
Crusader of Centy. We normally look up like things about the game, but I did not do that.
I did, but I think I might share at the end. So let's just say Crusader of Centy is just some fucking game for the Genesis.
Hell yeah!
There are lots of just random fucking games for the Genesis.
There are very, very interesting things actually about this game's developer. It won't take long, but I will be bringing it up at the end.
Dope. I had heard of this game in hushed tones as Link to the Past for the Genesis, and now that I've played it, that is not an accurate description. It kind of a little bit has the art style, and that's about it. I will say, from the second the opening cutscene is over and the game proper starts with the in-game graphics, I was like, oh, it really is just fucking Zelda. And that's because of the way the graphics look. Specifically, like not just like the designs, but like the way that interiors are drawn, the perspective it uses, the sizing of things like tables and chairs, like everything you're seeing as far as the tableau of the main character being in a little house it looks like someone traced over Link to the Past. But yeah, as soon as you start playing the game for more than 2 minutes, you realize that is not really true at all. Yeah. It's its own thing, and its own thing is kind of cool, if not janky. But when you load up the game for the first time, you are greeted with a cinematic opening crawl, which was common on RPGs of the time.
Crystal
and I will read it because it's not that long, and it's the longest cutscene in the game so far. The Age of Darkness without light. Creatures who wandered this world were later called monsters by humans. They were feared by everyone. I am dramatically pausing where it decides to do page breaks because it's bonkers.
This game's got a lot of like the horse race past the barn fell type situations because of the way that it parses its text boxes.
Yes. No one knows, where, when or how these creatures came to be. Have they been here since the start of humanity? Or were they here since the start of time? Who's to say? Time passes. One day, there was a change in the world. A great beam of light struck the earth and diffused through the darkness, filling the earth with light and destiny. Most of the monsters had no resistance to light and quickly perished. A seemingly endless period of time passed. Humanity had evolved and dominated the Earth's surface, but monsters did not become extinct. So, as I was writing my notes and I was riffing on all the punctuation that they use, they have not ended a sentence without a question mark this whole time. But then when they do monsters did not become extinct, it has a period on it, and I felt that. Like, as janky and weird it is, that sentence with the period, it seemed like final and spoopy. They hid underground and increased their numbers, as if they were waiting for the moment of restoration. Our story begins, when the monsters reappear and the inevitable conflict between man and monster ensues. Which is a super interesting setup that that's the last that we hear of it, at least for this part of the game.
I find it funny how extremely vague and underbaked it is. It's like I put quote the inevitable conflict between man and monster. What is a monster?
They only define it in quotes the entire opening crawl.
Yeah, and like if they said demons, it'd be one thing. It's like, oh, these things are like ontologically evil sent by the devil. Okay, sure. Like, yeah, it's a cop out, but like whatever, right? But it's like these are just critters. They're just dudes who live here. Like, I feel like the word monster is such a relative term. Like, as long as it's only a monster in like relation to something else. So it's just like, yeah, these monsters existed. But it's like there's this weird a priori assumption that these monsters are evil or bad or something, and that they have to fight humans. And it's just like, I guess most stories bring that question of why are these two sides fighting? Can't they just understand each other? Like, if you really think about it, like, it's why are we just assuming that these are bad? But usually you don't think about it. And in this, I'm just like, something about it just seems so off and strange. Like, it's this, I think it's the word inevitable conflict. Like, yeah, everyone knows, monsters. They fight humans. That's just how it is.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what it is. Usually there's some lore bullshit, like, long ago monsters and humans lived in harmony, but then one day a human betrayed a monster, and ever since then they've hated each other, right?
Yeah.
It's usually some shit like that.
But no, it's just monsters disappeared, but now they're back, and we're going to fight.
Yep.
So you press start, and you name your character Gohan, and you jump right in. When the game starts, today is your birthday and you're turning 14. When a kid turns 14 in this culture, they're given a sword so they can go off to battle. So your mom gives you your dad's old busted sword. And during your birthday party, you hear some fireworks, and someone there is like, oh, someone must have just passed their training and are leaving leaving to go become a hero. Fuck you and your party. We're going to go see them. So they all rush out to see. So, of course, you go and follow. The budding hero is named Eamon, and he's already gone in to talk to the king, and the NPC suggests that you do the same so that you can start your training. In the throne room, you see Eamon being congratulated by the king and given a sword for his graduating of the Rafflesia training grounds. The king wishes Eamon luck on his long journey, and Eamon leaves to go be the comic relief character for the rest of the game. You then go and talk to the king yourself, and he mentions that he knew your father, and he gives you permission to go train at the Rafflesia training grounds yourself, so you head over there. Once you leave town, you're greeted with a world map that's just like picking places from a menu. So it's really nothing at all like Link to the Past.
It's Final Fantasy Mystic Quest.
Yes.
Yeah. That's another kind of vibe it is. Yeah. While we're saying what this game feels like, 'cause I think since this game has so little plot, I think talking about how the game feels to play it might as well be a thing we talk about. The second you walk out of the little town, the little building, it definitely stops being Zelda and feels more like, well, you're walking in a much more substantial town, like a JRPG-esque town, not like a tiny little Zelda town that is stupid.
The Link to the Past, the one town in Link to the Past is like nothing.
It's a very boring town. But the design of the town, something about the way it feels, and the fact that on the north end of the town is a bridge that then leads to a big castle. Like, the castle is a separate area that's to the north of the town, separated by a screen. Like, that's Dragon Quest III, buddy. Like, I don't know what to tell you. That's Dragon Quest III vibes. A lot of this game actually flows. It's these guys have played Dragon Quest. Like, it's hard for me to explain, and I know it's like, Maddie Grace, you just love Dragon Quest, so you think everything gives out Dragon Quest vibes. No, like, there's a certain approach to pacing and tone that Dragon Quest has, and this game is doing it. So there.
In particular, this game reminds me of the Dragon Quest Monsters sub-series, even more than like a mainline Dragon Quest. But
that's
it's
a good point. Yeah, that's
right
it. But yeah, just things about like its town design, its flow. But then, when you go on the world map, you don't travel on a world map like you do in, say, Terra Enigma, which this game also reminds me a lot of. But yeah, you just, go on you just hit up to go to the next area that's north of you.
So you go up to the training grounds, and there are 3 courses to choose from, but you only can complete the bronze course for now. When you complete it, and find 20 coins along your way, you get a sword throwing technique, which is super cool and way better than sword beams. And at this moment, the game doesn't even feel like Zelda to play anymore.
Way jankier than sword beams and way jankier than a spin attack. And
also reminds me of Crystallis. Because you have to hold down the button towards it. So the main character's animation in this game is amazing. He has like a billion frames. Like, his walk cycle is so many more frames than your average game like this. And whenever you first of all, you can face 8 directions instead of just 4. Not only can you move 8 directions, you can also, your sprite actually has 8 different directions where it faces. And did y'all notice the cornering animations? Like, if you're facing left and then you turn right, it'll do this super, super lots and lots of frames animation of him fucking, swiveling around. I was like, I just couldn't stop spinning around in the game. It's got such a chunky 3D-ness to it that you don't see from this era. It was weird. But also, when you charge up your sword, he holds it straight up in the air, but you don't just stand still while you do it like Crystallis. You can move while you do it. So he's just like running he's like just running on the line with his sword just straight up like, just waving it, waggling it. It looks really goofy.
It's so good. So after you get your sword throwing technique, you can, if you want, go back to the town and talk to all the NPCs, where one of them has new dialogue, and he tells you that he wants to go to the valley to see the fortune teller, but he can't because he can't throw his sword. Or if you're like me, you realize that a new area has opened on the world map, and you just choose it from the list. So the new place to go is...
I did go back and talk to everyone. Unfortunately, none of them quite made the cut where I would put them on like MemMom or anything. They all say normal RPG stuff, and it's badly translated, but it's not bad. They're not all just saying like game information. They're actually saying like, stuff about their lives, which is always what I like to see in NPCs. So it really does feel more like a actual JRPG than a Zelda game, because those aren't JRPGs. Sam.
I did encounter, it might be the man you were talking about. I did encounter, before I went to the training grounds, a man who said like he wanted to go to the valley or something, but he doesn't know how. He's too old to throw a sword. And I was like, is that a weird mistranslation of I'm too old to wield a sword?
And then later,
I was like, no. You throw swords in this game, and they come back to you. They
That
could
comes
have
back to
put
you
a
as dope as hell.
boomerang in the game, but no.
Nope. It's like they played Zelda and they're like, swords are cool, the boomerang is cool, but we don't want to do items for our game. Spoilers, you don't collect items in this game. So we'll do just a boomerang sword instead.
Here's what this game makes me feel like. This game makes me feel like whoever was the producer of this game, or the executive producer, or like the president of the company, told them, hey, we need to make a game to compete with Zelda. We need to make a Zelda game. That Link to the Past is really big. We need to make a game like that. But the developers either had not played Link to the Past or simply didn't care. And they're mostly taking influence from a whole bunch of other games.
Uh-huh. It kind of reminds me of like, you know, all the RPG Maker games where they do something that's not just a Final Fantasy ass RPG Maker game.
It reminded me so much of RPG Maker.
It's like they handed the developers Zelda Maker and they made Crystalis instead.
Well, no, like a lot of this game's mechanics are implemented. Usually mechanically they feel fine. They even feel really good to play. But as far as visually, like a lot of the time it looks like someone's using Game Maker or RPG Maker and having to do all kinds of weird custom scripting to make it do stuff it's not really supposed to do. So it just looks weird.
Yeah, like your party members, again, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but your party members walk behind you, but they don't follow you. They just are like 40 pixels behind you. So when you turn around, they just swang around behind
and they
you.
like float in a weird way. It looks completely just bugged out. Like it looks like if I had tried to make it in Game Maker, and that's as far as I got before I gave up and did something else with my time.
Yeah.
Like I never finished the game. That's just how it is. You know, like that's what it looks like.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Dahlia Valley is our first real dungeon of the game, and it's more of a mountain than a valley, but whatever. And the gimmick here is that there's buttons that when you throw your sword at them, they create a river of water that can wash you down to a lower path to help you make progress. When you get all the way up, there's some water that you can ride all the way down to find a small cottage. And inside is the literal big bad wolf who's trying to eat an old lady in there. And then you get your first boss of the game. You just kind of thrown in. There was like no fanfare. I wasn't expecting there to be a boss inside of this house. But
the game doesn't tell you this is your goal, this is your destination.
But there you are. I died a lot. And when you die, you're put back at the title screen until the last time that you save. And you don't save at save points. You save any time. So I'm using save states in this game because this is incompatible with my ADHD. You cannot tell me to save anywhere and not give me save spots and then kick me to the title screen, because I will play the game instead and never save. And it's a bad idea. Don't be like me.
Weirdly, that's like a weirdly like Western game design thing to have in a. And in case you're curious, this game's developer was what's it called? Oh, do I have that window open anymore? It was like Next Tech or something, which definitely sounds like, oh, even though this is a Sega game, they got like some weird British British bedroom developer. They got like some like Swedes to do it. But no, if you look at the lead, it is all Japanese folks.
Yeah, so I abuse save states to be the big bad wolf. Should we talk about how like until you get the sword upgrade halfway through this week, the game kind of controls like garbage for combat?
Sword upgrade.
Did you not get the sword upgrade where your sword swings twice as fast?
No.
After you beat a boss, it's towards the end. Oh, Bernard, you didn't get all the way to the end. That's right.
Oh yeah.
Oh right. Yes.
Yeah.
I beat the wolf on my first try because I'm a pro gamer.
Yeah, I didn't find it that bad. It is true. The sword swinging doesn't control great. I don't think it controls bad either. This is going to be a really weird thing to say, but at some point my brain, because this game keeps adding mechanics and it also adds like level design elements, and it just seems kind of arbitrary and random. Like it doesn't. Oftentimes, it doesn't seem like the things gel together at all. And the thought came to my brain unbidden. I was like, you know what this game reminds me of? Despite being a 1994 game for the Sega Genesis, a somewhat late, middle to late 2D action game. It feels like an early, janky-ass 3D game for the PlayStation 1. Something like something about it like was giving Jumping Flash, I don't know, but yeah, just the way it just piles all these weird things on there, and maybe the fact that you do have such like the movement is a bit different than other 2D games. Like you actually have freer move. I mean, you can move 8-directionally. You can't do that in a lot of these games, right? 8-dimensional movement. Some of the mechanics it gives you can jump. It's got this loosey-goosey, bouncy-trouncy quality to it that you don't normally see with the solidity of 2D games. I don't actually think it plays bad. I feel like it plays idiosyncratically, but you definitely got to get close to those enemies to slash them, and your slash definitely could have fewer frames in it.
It could have fewer frames, and I feel it attacks to the off center in a way that takes a lot of getting used to. I don't think I really noticed that. Maybe for some reason my brain found it intuitive, so I didn't notice it. Yeah,
I believe you.
He starts forward and goes to the right instead of reaching to the left and going to the right. So there's spot to your upper left or whatever that doesn't hit where you think that it should. And it takes a lot of getting used to. That being said, every other boss besides this one, I just threw my sword at it and then it became a shmup, and that's made it a lot more fun to play.
I found myself often throwing my sword in directions I did not intend to. I don't know why.
Yeah. Here's a weird fucking thing. Enemies, the bosses, they don't react when you hit them.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that's why it feels like an unfinished Game Maker game. They don't flash white. They don't recoil. Literally, the only way you know if you...
Regular enemies, at least, flash.
Sorry, yeah, the bosses don't, I should have said. Some of the regular enemies don't either, but yeah, I mean, the bosses just, don't, which is, the weirdest thing, right? The only way to know that you, hit a boss is that you see that its health bar goes down.
Yeah, and there's the tiniest sound effect if you're playing with the sound on. It's like a...
Oh, there is? I literally didn't hear it.
Yeah, it's very, very slight.
I was too busy jamming to the music, which is quite good. I don't like its choice of sound fonts. I think most of its sounds are not good, but the compositions are very good. I would like to hear the compositions redone with different sounds.
Yeah. The cool part is being Genesis, it's not a sound font. It's all
true.
FM synth. So you could literally put your ROM into Deflamask. It would find the song, recreate it for you, and then you could just adjust the synths to not suck.
And that's the thing about Genesis. That's why Genesis is awesome, is the FM synth. But that means sometimes you get phenomenal sound and sometimes you get bad sound because they can't just slap in some samples in there. They got to really put some work into it,
Yeah. After you kill the wolf, the old lady that the wolf was trying to eat comes out, and it's not the fortune teller. It's just some random old lady. She says that the fortune teller said that we would come and that she's waiting for us for the plaza. We have big things ahead of us. So
I actually sort of like this in a just sort of a game design philosophical sense, how we didn't have any direction, but we ended up going here anyway. And then retroactively, it's like, yes, we were predestined to come here by the fortune teller saying that we would come here. I like it.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, it's very weird that we've gotten halfway through this game and this one, and here in a second, where the fortune teller says that oh, we have a big destiny is the only thing, because you hear Zelda tell you that you're the chosen one before you can control Link in Link to the Past.
Yeah.
And that's definitely not the case here. You kind of just are trying to the adventure hook is you can't complete all of your 3 trials to become a hero to join the army. So you just are trying to go and figure out something to be able to make the jump to get to the second one.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those games where like you just kind of go around and stumble into what apparently you were supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you're like me, hearing that you need to go to the plaza, you look everywhere and you spend forever wandering the map of the town looking for the plaza. There's a big open area that I would call a plaza, and I talk to all of the NPCs and there's nothing going on. I go back to the valley. There's a part down at the bottom that like I can see collectible items in, and it's kind of open, and I'm like, maybe that's the plaza. So I end up getting all of they're not heart pieces, they're golden apples, but all the heart pieces in the area, trying to figure out how to get down to that plaza. And she's not there at all. But there's a mini game spot in town that's super easy to miss, like tucked away up in the top left. That's called the plaza, and that's where she is. So I spent the first looking up for a guide that I did for this game was not dungeon help, not boss help. It was, where the fuck is the plaza?
I found the plaza accidentally very quickly, but I actually regretted it because of what's about to happen.
Mm-hmm. So you go find the fortune teller in the plaza, and she says that we're the chosen one and we're going to change the whole fate of the world. And then she curses us to only be able to speak to animals. And if you try to talk to a human, they only speak a string of ASCII characters to us now.
So if you didn't talk to those town NPCs already, well, sorry, buddy.
She like says a change will come over you and you'll only be able to speak to plants and animals. And I'm like, sounds like you're cursing me.
Definitely so.
Like, this is obviously the game's hook, but instead of it happening in like some dramatic altercation with the villain, it's like you just go to some lady's house and she's like, you can only speak to animals now. Have fun. And it's like, okay.
Very East 2.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Also, more literally, very further frog the bell tolls.
Yes.
And even more so, we'll see in a bit.
So the animals in this world are magic. And so now that we can talk to them, we can use them for magic powers. And those are the party members to which I alluded to earlier. And you collect a shitload of them, and you can equip 2 at a time, like they're a Zelda
more
item.
like items, yeah.
Yeah, they're more like relics or accessories. So yeah, you have them all in your quote unquote party, but then in your menu you pick which 2 you want, and each one does something. Like, we'll just jump ahead. Like one of them, the one that you get at first, will, like, if an enemy's coming at you, if your buddy hits the enemy first, then the buddy will like hold the enemy so that it doesn't come at you. Another one lets you have ice power on your sword shoot. Another one lets you have fire power on your sword throw. Another one makes you run fast. Another one makes you slice your sword fast. Another one, like, you can push an extra button to make them make a shield in front of you. Mm-hmm. So some of them use the third button on the Genesis controller. Yeah, they're all pretty fun, although they're all pretty fun, and sometimes you need one of them to get through a dungeon. Mm-hmm. So they use it for gating.
I like how the Genesis has 3 face buttons. And you have the 3 most important video game actions in this game: sword, jump, and animal.
That's right. Sword, jump, and buddy. Friend, son action. Boy.
Outside of the fortune teller's tent, there's a flower that we can talk to now. And they tell us that the fortune teller went off to Iris. No idea where that is, and we can't talk to anybody to figure out where that is, but that's apparently where we're headed now. Yeah. And either the flower or like a cow nearby or something tells us that rabbits, like the one at the top of Dahlia Valley, don't trust humans, so we would need to prove that we're trustworthy by getting another animal partner before we go to the rabbit. So
also,
of course,
I want to point out that early in the game, before this point, you can talk to an NPC who's like, there's this weird rabbit blocking the path up in Dahlia Valley. You can try and reason with it if you can talk to rabbits. And I'm like, oh, I'm assuming I'm going to learn to talk to rabbits later.
Yeah.
I don't know why this guy is assuming
this game
that.
does do a cute thing from now on where sometimes the humans that you'll meet later on will something will be happening with the humans and you can't talk with them. So you have to indirectly find out what's going on by talking to the animals in the area, right? And they might tell you what's going on with the humans, or they might misunderstand what's going on with the humans. It's very cute.
Mm-hmm. So we head over to our house and we talk to the family pup who joins our team. And he kind of is our mouthpiece until we meet Chili, who becomes the mouthpiece for some reason after that. But that happens later. So we get our dog and we go to the top of Dahlia Valley, and the rabbit moves out of the way for us and teaches us how to have the courage enough to jump, which
I love it.
I actually love this because to me, it's it's almost like a little diegetical joke. It's why would you need to learn to jump? You're a human being. You're not a fucking idiot. You know how jumping works.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the idea that you have to have courage to jump, because here's the thing. How many times do you jump in your day-to-day life?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you don't jump. You don't just jump around. I can't think of the last time I jumped, right? No. So you're walking around, unlike in video games. In real life, you don't just jump for no reason. So, but when would you jump? Well, you would jump if there was some kind of gap you needed to cross. So if you were a scared kid, you would come to a situation where you actually need to jump, like there's a raging river or you're high up and you're like, I'm too scared to jump. I'm clearly capable of doing so. I found it really, really good, actually.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
And then once you get the courage to do that first jump, you start jumping everywhere, even over flat ground, because it's fun.
And it's such a good, it's a rabbit jump animation.
I think since there's no reason to jump in around on flat ground for no fucking reason, diegetically, I'm pretending that the character doesn't do that.
But so past the rabbit, we get to an enemy beach, which is really big, and nothing happens.
Not an enemy beach in that it is named after the sea creature, and also an enemy beach in that there's a lot of enemies there.
Yes, there's also a Sonic the Hedgehog there.
Yes, who is rude to you.
Yeah, he's got tood. But at the far end of the beach, we get the ability to pick things up from an elephant. So we move the boulder out of the way and go to the Windy Plains, which fucking suck, and they're the worst thing in this goddamn game. They should have picked one gimmick for this dungeon, but there are two, and the second gimmick of the wind is the worst, and it makes it one too many thing for this dungeon, and it's frustrating, and I fucking hate it. It's garbage.
So before you go into this dungeon, there is a little town of animals, and they mention that there's a big monster in that their dungeon, and so we put a boulder in front of it so that the monster won't get us. But it sounds like there's a helpless animal back there. Mm-hmm. So we're like, we better endanger the whole town by moving the boulder.
Yeah, we do. But we're heroes. We're gonna go kill that there monster while we're there. And yeah, it's a fairly long dungeon. The main gimmick is that there's a bunch of booby traps that the townspeople had set, and you have to disarm all of them to get across. And so you often have to do wind your way around to the right to hit a switch that will then let you wind your way around to the left, and then you get to a part with raging water that you have to jump over, and very decent dungeon stuff. But every 2 seconds, the wind blows really, really hard. And if you're jumping while the wind blows, it'll blow you into the fucking river, and you got to start all the way over. And I hate it. I hate it so fucking much.
Yeah. The reason why this game, despite being a 2D top-down action RPG, reminded me of Sonic 3 and Knuckles, is that every level, just like Sonic 3 and Knuckles, every level has a totally unique gimmick that's unrelated to anything that came before. And you never really build skills in the game. It's just each level, it's well, I guess I got to get good at this thing now. And then after that level, it's I'll never have to do that again. And they just sort of cook up whatever ideas they thought of for one fucking stage.
Mm. And the wind sucks.
The Wind Sucks, my favorite Hayao Miyazaki movie.
That's right.
So at the end of the plains, we fight an octopus who has a baby penguin that we're saving. I did not find that questing NPC, but I'm a hero, goddammit. So he's like, I'm not going to give you this penguin. And I'm like, well, you're a big, scary boss monster. You have a damsel in distress. I'm going to kill you.
Yep, same thing. I'm never going to give you this penguin. Oh, was that what I was doing? Okay, cool.
The octopus is fucking easy. I literally didn't get hit at all. I just threw my sword like 6 times. He has like 1,000,003 wind-up frames for his animation, and when he takes damage, that animation cancels. So he never was able to attack me because I could just throw my sword a bunch of times, and he died.
The graphics on this boss, though, super cute.
The octopus, it shoots like straight in front of it, but you can just throw your sword from the side.
Yep.
Yeah. Easy. So the penguin, Chili, says that he's from the island kingdom of Frisia, but he was captured by this octopus, and he wants to join us now to go be a hero and potentially eventually get home. So this now lets us select the next place on the world map, which is called Hot Daisy, which is a great name for a place.
It is. I love it.
And in Hot Daisy, there's lava flows everywhere that now with Chili's ice powers, we can freeze them and get across. Hot Daisy is a really long lava dungeon that has a second phase called Burn Daisy, which is also a great name for a place.
So this is the part that really made me feel like it was like Sonic. So I'm like, oh, like every level. I noticed the dungeons tend to come in pairs. The first dungeon in the game was really 2 different dungeons. Like you leave the screen, and now there's more dungeon, but the graphics are different. So it's like, oh, it's like Act 1 and Act 2 of a Sonic 3 and Knuckles. That's cute. But this is the one where, this was a dungeon where I finally realized that, because they're both lava, but one of them is outside and you see the volcano background, and the second one is like inside, like a cave. And I'm like, that's exactly what Sandopolis Zone does. And also the music in the second part is a variation on the music in the first part, but more low-key and chill. The funny thing is, the second I realized that the game had generally been giving you dungeons in pairs, calling them dungeons is giving them too much credit. They're levels. Yeah. After realizing that the game had been giving us levels in pairs, ironically, at that point, the game stopped doing that and started giving them to us in batches that were more than 2. Mm-hmm. Because after Fire Act 2, it then goes on to another level immediately after that.
Yeah. At the end of Burn Daisy, you fight a fucking doofus. And
love this doofus. Love him.
His boss mechanic is a shell game that if you get it wrong, you lose 1 HP. But at this point, you have like 21 HP, and he has 8. So,
and it's not that hard to keep track of.
Not that hard at all. But once you murder the doofus, we get a flying squirrel friend who makes our thrown swords go super duper long and rebound off walls, which is perfect. And I love him. And I kept him equipped almost the rest of the time.
He's cute. And his animation actually makes sense because he's floating, because he's a flying squirrel. He's not just weirdly hovering, even though he's a dog.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Or a penguin, famous flying creature.
Yeah. So on the other side of Hot Daisy is Iris, which I thought would be a town, but it's actually the forest dungeon that also has lava in it. And at the tail end of it is an animal village where there's a cheetah hosting races against himself. And the prize for winning is that he'll join you or whatever. And he's basically impossible. According to the game facts, you can technically beat him, but it's like you have to be great at like RC Pro-Am style racing, with like the tank control racing, which I am not
it's good really at. Fun that you can it's really fun that in this dumb little bespoke mini game that they made for this one stupid part of the game, you can fucking power slide. Wait, is that what it's called?
Drift.
I forget what there's another word for it though. Is it called power slide? Did I forget the basic car thing? Whatever. Anyway, it's drift as well. Yeah. You can drift. It's cool.
Yeah. And I was not coming close, and I was like, oh, is there a gimmick or something? And there is. If you talk to the cheetah, you can unionize and turn against his boss. And he says, I'll let you win. Just take me away from here. My boss doesn't pay me enough. He takes.
But you do have
20.
to pay your union dues of $50.
Yeah. And then he'll let you in, and it's awesome. The cheetah gives you 2 times run speed, and he's perfect, and I love him. And him and the squirrel stayed equipped for everything that I didn't need to change to progress for the rest of the time.
The slightly janky movement of this game, I think, feels really good. And when you're running really fast and jumping really fast and hitting those bumpers that bump you along and hitting those weird like places that are in every dungeon that make you slide, it feels real cool. I enjoy how loose and wild it feels.
I think this is the point where it started making me think it was the early PS1 3D game. Yeah, the movement is just very odd and very, very frenetic and chaotic energy, while still, like, luckily the game's not, like, hard at all.
Yeah. It's punishing, but not necessarily hard. It's like, oh, if you mess up because of their save game implementation, it sucks, but that doesn't happen very often.
Maybe you should be able to save everywhere, but also there's like some diegetic thing of here's a little shrine. You should always go and pray at this shrine, and that takes the form of saving.
Yeah. Or I would love if it just, because like Maddie said, these aren't dungeons, they're levels. If it just kicked you to the back of the beginning of the level.
Yep.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Metal Gear Solid style.
But now that we can run like the wind bullseye, we can jump over the hole in the forest and continue to do the rest of the dungeon. But when we do so, a slime in a baseball cap comes and steals our body and runs off. And now we're a slime in a baseball cap. And it's cool. So we hop around as a slime to the slime village, and Eamon is there. And because we're now a monster, he kicks our ass.
You have to run.
You gotta run. So we go and talk to the slime mom, and she says that her son, Slimy, was talking about wanting to be human, and he must have made a pact with the witch to steal our body, so we have to go find a way to talk to a witch. I'm simplifying a character out of existence. There's a third person here, but it doesn't matter. We got to go find the witch. The witch promises to turn us back, but we have to solve the classic wolf, chicken, and grain puzzle with 3 different things to prove that we're human and worthy. Thankfully, I have heard this riddle a million times in my life, so I was able to just do it by memory. But
I do want to say that it is a fox, a chicken, and grain is the typical riddle.
True.
Because the problem is that the fox would eat the chicken, but if it was a wolf, the wolf would eat the human.
Yes.
And the riddle is over.
True. But yeah, so we prove that we're worthy by doing that puzzle, and she turns us back into a human.
It's a good riddle. We've all heard it a million times, but it's a good riddle.
It really is. I remember the first time I heard it.
And there's easier and more difficult variations of the riddle, too.
Mm-hmm.
This is an easy variation of it, but there's slightly modified versions that are real brain teasers.
Mm-hmm. It's a very good riddle. So now that we're human again, we can continue our way through the forest, and we make our way to the desert, which is also really big, and nothing really happens. At the very far end of the desert, we meet Dippy, the dinosaur, who used to Lapras animals across the sea, but he doesn't want to anymore because he's a scaredy cat of all the monsters what took over Frisia Island.
Or the desert is so fucking big that you completely miss that there's a whole new animal village, and you have no idea what to do.
Yes. That's definitely what happened to me. And then when I was trying to figure out what am I supposed to do, they're like, go talk to Dippy the dinosaur at the animal village. So I go all the way back to Iris.
Oh my God.
To the previous animal village.
I went back to Iris. I went back to an enemy beach.
But yeah, so we push on to find the Tower of Babel, which has an elevator to the top, which
And
is
at
convenient.
this point, I think Chili at one point had been like, hey, I heard there's something going on with the humans at the Tower of Babel, and they can't talk to each other. Maybe you should check it out since you have a weird thing with talking to people now.
Yeah, I think at some point, just like unbidden crossing the desert, Chili says it or something. But so we get to the top of the top of the Tower of Babel by riding the elevator, and there's a rope to climb up even higher. So we start to climb the rope, but it's not actually a rope. It's Roxy, the hardest boss in the game so far. It's not conceptually hard, but the homing on her punch hands is too good, and basically I just took damage every time there were punch hands.
This boss is really cool.
You only can attack it if it does its super move, and you dodge its super move, and then it's vulnerable. But that just means you're stuck on RNG on what patterns you get, and if your pattern is homing hands like 3 times in a row, I died. So
I feel like this boss could not be a more Sega Genesis boss.
Absolutely.
Right? It's really giving Vector Man.
I was about to say, unless it were a series of orbs.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like it reminds you so like the boss. Remember how the bosses in fucking Castlevania Bloodlines are all just like, yeah, what if this thing had a bunch of different rotating parts and it had all this 3D shit or like
that fucking Metal Gear you fight?
Yep. No, it totally feels like Castlevania. It totally feels like Vector Man. It's just some Sega Genesis shit. The boss is you're trying to use a rope to climb. But then the rope is like, I'm not a rope. You can't just climb me. And then the rope forms itself into the shape of a person. But it also has a heart in the middle of it. So it's just an outline of a person. And then the rope will it'll grow and shrink its hands and rotate its body 3-dimensionally on the axis and then extend its rope arms to get you. It's actually, it's really cool.
It's also difficult.
Very difficult. I save scummed mid fight, this is the only boss fight this time that I save scummed in the middle of a fight and not just outside the boss room. After we win the fight, Chili is like, there's a second more taller tower in the clouds above this one, but since we just killed the rope to get up there, we need to go get a plant from my hometown in Frisia. So we go back to see Dippy and we convince him to be a Lapras once more, and now we can go to Frisia Island. We also conveniently can cut across the world map to not have to hold up a bunch of times to get back home.
Yeah.
Frisia Island is actually a good dungeon. It's like requires dungeoneering Zelda dungeon and seeing how all the pieces fit together, and I really, really liked it, even though, again, it was really big and nothing really happened in it.
Also, it is ice floor, but you can jump, and the jumping sort of negates the ice floor, and it feels good to jump everywhere.
It helps you control your movement a little better. Yeah, no, Frazizi Peak was a good time.
Yeah. If you don't jump and you have the cheetah enabled, cheetah and ice physics are a very bad time, and letting go of the button at full speed on the ice, you ping pong around the whole room, and it's great.
Around even more than usual.
It's great. Partway through, we meet Chili's family, who say that Georama has taken over the island, and they ask us to kill him so they can have their home back. And he's super easy to kill.
How do you kill him? Because that's as far as I got.
When he's ice, you hit him with fire. When he's fire, you hit him with ice.
Yeah, this is one of those things where
but I hit him with. I thought I was hitting. I must not have been. I thought I was hitting him with ice when he was red.
You might be hitting him with fire ice. Fire ice does nothing, so you have to make sure.
I was probably hitting him with fire ice because the description says most powerful ice magic or something like that.
Yeah, and it's not actually that. So you have to.
I didn't think about that.
You have to unequip the lion. Only have the penguin, and vice versa. I ran into the same thing. When you hit him, he also doesn't play the like everyone else does. He plays his own I'm transforming into a different color thing, and it makes it real easy to not see the HP gauge pop up. So I thought I wasn't doing anything, and then he randomly died on me. So yeah, you just have to hit him with his weakness like 4 times, and then he's gone.
It's a neat boss. He makes fire go all on the ground, and if you let there be too much fire on the ground, then you can't move because there's fire everywhere. So you want him to still want to like let him be ice for a bit on purpose and not hit him again. Just let him be ice for a bit, because when his ice attack will put out the fire attack, thus giving you more move around. It's kind of neat.
The boss is fucking up the terrain as you fight. Very East 1 vibes.
That's right.
So after we defeat him, he's like, you won't get away with this, and he pushes us down a waterfall, and we end up in a flooded castle that now Sonic Vibes has a oxygen level mechanic. Thankfully, this one is way more forgiving than 30 seconds. It's a minute, and the checkpoints are super frequent. So it's basically not a thing.
It's enough to be exciting and stress you out a little bit, but not enough to actually be that scary.
At the end of the sunken castle, we find Leviathan. He summons an image of our mom and attacks it instead of us, so we have to kill him before he kills our mom, which requires the Zelda tennis mechanic, but he's way easier than Ganon ever was. After we beat him, he says that he wishes to see if the rest of the humans are like we are, and he joins our group and raises the castle back above the waves, which is arbitrarily where we stop for the week.
Yep. I actually am going to need to go, unfortunately. Something has come up that needs my attention. I will mention only one memorable thing, which is that it's not even a memorable thing, it's more just an important thing. A lot of NPCs talk about, like, why can't humans and monsters understand each other? Or why are the humans hurting the monsters? And for Leviathan, someone even says in, like, the Trizizi Ice Castle that, like, oh yeah, Leviathan, man, he's a great, powerful monster, but he's like the nicest guy ever. He's like a nature spirit. All he wants is for everyone to live in harmony and like wouldn't hurt a fly. And when you attack him, he's like, why are humans always trying to fucking kill me? Like, very much like, why are you doing this? But then once you beat him, it's definitely like you're not killing him. It's like, oh, he's like, oh, since you were so dedicated to stopping me from hurting your mom, I'll like, you gain my respect, right? Like, you're not like the other humans. But also, I wanted to share some interesting info about this company. So this game was made by Nextech. And Nextech has been around for quite a while, since 1992, and they have worked for various companies. They're small enough that they don't have a Wikipedia page, but they do have a page on SegaRetro.org. Turns out Sega fans care enough about their game history to do really, really, really good work on these wikis. Like, wow, like really good work. There's a lot of really detailed stuff, like every personnel who like worked on a game. Like, it's really cool. Anyway, Nextech did not really do too much. They mostly do a lot of ports. They did like the Saturn port of like Resident Evil. So they did a lot of ports. They may have made the original was an arcade game, but the original Dreamcast release of Dino Crisis. They also did make Crusader of Centy. They also did make Shining Tears and Shining Wind, so 2 Shining games. They also ported Bayonetta to PS3 and made Shining Soul. The fact that they made a couple of latter-day Shining games is important. Hold that thought. So the game, Crusader of Centy. They didn't really make Crusader of Centy. Crusader of Centy was 99% done when they bought another company that was making the game. called Gao. So let's go back in time a little bit. So Gao is a company that only existed for a few years, and they only made one game. It was a run and gun called Ranger X, which I have heard of that for Genesis. So they made Ranger X, and then they worked on Crusader of Centy, but then before they finished it, they got acquired by Nextech, so technically it's a Nextech game. But where does Gao come from? Gao was made by a whole team of people who left the company Wolf Team. And Wolf Team, I found out, is really interesting. Check this out. Wolf Team's been around for a long time, been around since '86. They've made a whole bunch of games. All I have is a list of what games they've made for Genesis, since I'm on the SegaRetro.net. But they've made a lot of stuff. But some of the stuff they made is they made a game called Arcus Odyssey, which you may have heard of. And then also a game series called Arcus 1, Arcus 2, Arcus 3. They also made a whole bunch of games I haven't heard of. So I'm not even going to say that I haven't heard of them. Like, those are the only games that they've made that I've heard of. Here's the thing, though, that's neat. And this is the game they made for Sega consoles, right? So if they made other shit, I don't know what it is. But here's the important thing. In 1994, they made, as a joint operation with Namco, Tales of Fantasia.
Oh.
And then, later, they had some conflict between them and Namco, and it left most of the original Wolf Team to leave. So, but then Wolf Team did continue to go on and became Namco Tales Studio. So we got this company, Wolf Team. Early on, so they make a bunch of games, including Arcus, which again is a series I've at least heard of. At some point, some people leave Wolf Team and go on to make the game we're currently playing, Crusader of Centy, Gao, and then they get acquired by Nextech. But then so that's the first schism. But then a little later, they make Tales of Fantasia a huge deal. They have another schism. The original Wolf Team continues on to be the guys that make Tales games to this day. The other half of the schism became Tri-Ace.
What?
All these fucking games they're all the same shit. Isn't that crazy?
Crazy.
Yeah, Tri-Ace and Tales of Fantasia both came from this studio.
Yeah.
And this studio also made Crusader of Centy, although not the same people. And then final thing, apparently Crusader of Centy, both Crusader of Centy and what's it called? Landstalker, another really good sort of Zelda-like for the Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
Both of those games were originally, apparently, according to this very small amount of research I've done, but there was a citation, there was like a little link to some Japanese website that I couldn't read. Apparently both of these games were originally conceived as possible Shining games.
I could see it.
Because the Shining series isn't just tactics RPGs. There's a lot of different kinds of, like, Shining has tactics RPGs, action games, regular RPGs,
Dungeon
crawlers. Like, so they were going to make an action spinoff of Shining, and it ended up becoming two different, really well liked Genesis action RPGs. So yeah, so Shining, anything Tri-Ace has ever made, Tales of, and that other one that I haven't actually played before, but I've heard of them, at least Arcus, all have this shared lineage. So I thought it was worth sharing. I find it quite cool.
That's cool. All of my mim moms, except for the fact that your dog, before you speak dog, says bow wow wow yippee yo yippee yay, were all of my mim moms. Did you have any, Bernard?
I just find the writing really weird and fun and charming and interesting.
Yeah.
I unfortunately do have to go. So y'all can
even for the outro?
No, I should have gone 5 minutes ago. I'm sorry.
Okay, cool.
But,
bye, Maddie.
I'm Maddie Grace, and I'll see y'all next week. Goodbye.
Bye. So, that'll do it for the week. If you like what you heard today and you want to help us offset the costs of running the show, head on over to www.rpgbook.club, where any and all donations are put back towards the show to help us make it better, offset hosting costs and game costs, things like that. If you donate $1 or more each month, you'll get access to our Book Club no Kaseki episodes a month before everyone else, as well as be able to vote on our polls that decide what game we play next. Except this time of year, you don't get a pick because we're going to sell out and sell out hard and play the RPG to end all RPGs that everybody in the world likes in the most sellout way possible to end our Square moratorium. And we're going to be playing Final Fantasy VII.
Hell yes.
Hell yeah. This game is short enough that I feel I'm just going to say it this week and next week, and that'll get you ready for 2 weeks from now. We're playing Final Fantasy VII. I'm working on getting us a super awesome guest for that season. They already said yes, so just got to remind them because they said yes before we started playing Persona. So I want to make sure that the timing works out for them. So I'm not announcing who it is, but it should be great. But if you decide to bump up your monthly contribution to $5 a month, you'll also get your name shouted out at the end of every episode. So shout outs to Bernie L. Taylor, Aaron524, Anthony Lerma, Vimk, Jfro Prime, Eli Bergmas, Doho, and that's it. No Tuxedo Ken. Sorry, Ken. Just had to see you go. If you bump up your monthly donation to $20 a month, we'll not only read your name, but give you a 1-sentence shout out to whatever you want. The idea is that this be a URL for your Twitch stream or YouTube channel or whatever, but our current luminary, Carr, is a dentist, so his shout out is not for a Twitch stream, but for your own mouth. He asks that you brush your teeth twice a day, most importantly, the time right before you go to bed. For RPG Book Club, I have been Sam Allman.
I'm David Bernard Hauk.
Toodaloo, folks.